Well guys, we're almost there. 1 week left until the next era for Nintendo begins, and I am so excited. The Nintendo Switch 2 is looking to be a very promising console, as the Nintendo Switch was great, so Nintendo's doing the smartest thing they could possibly do, and they're giving us more of it, and a better version of it. So, today's video is going to be kind of a predictions video of sorts on what I personally think they're going to do for this showcase for the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, this is going to work a little bit differently than most of my standard Nintendo Direct predictions videos. Rather than just talking about a bunch of games the whole time, I'm actually going to be diving into specific areas of the Switch 2 that I feel like Nintendo are going to spend most of their time on. Games, of course, will be talked about, but it won't be the primary focus, but it'll be a decent focus. So, if you enjoy this video, definitely make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, all of that stuff down below. And of course, hit that notification bell so you can be notified of when I upload videos, and consider becoming a ZakPak member. It would mean a lot if you become a member of the channel, get exclusive perks, and all of that jazz. Also, I quickly want to plug in my Nintendo Switch 8th anniversary video, as that video perfectly, celebrates the life of the Nintendo Switch before we move on to this next generation, which I am super excited about, and I really had a good time with this video. Collabed with almost 20 other creators. You should definitely go and watch it. So, without any further ado, let's get right on into talking about the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. Firstly, let's talk about the console itself. The console itself, I feel like we got a decent look at in that initial trailer, because honestly, we really don't need to see much of the console. There are certain things about the console that we should most definitely see, which I'll get into, but as for showing off the console, showing off the Joy-Cons, I don't really think Nintendo needs to do that. They don't really need to spend a lot of time on it, because at this point, we already know what the Switch is all about. They should primarily focus on showing the new stuff. Of course, for potential first-time Switch owners, you gotta kinda at least cover the basics a little bit. Kind of glaze over it, the console, you can take it on the go, you can play it at home, all that jazz, but they'll probably step away from that, not rely too much on it, and mostly focus on the new stuff. For example, I think that one of the main focuses they're going to have is going to be the mouse Joy-Con functionality. Whatever the heck they're going to end up doing, that could end up being some sort of like mouse-like control. I mean, there are plenty of games, Pikmin is the main one that comes to mind, that I feel like could work really, really well with these mouse controls. So if they're gonna do it, I feel like they're gonna show off a game or something that'll utilize that really well. Think of like 1-2 Switch, like kind of like maybe in a pack-in title that you'll be able to use things like that mouse functionality with. I think that'll be a really good use of it. And of course, they'll show off what that extra button does, that little square button on the right Joy-Con. They'll probably show off what it does. My guess is that it links somewhat with like online functionality, which I'll talk about in a second here. But I think it's going to be able to open like a little menu where you can look at who's online, jump into a voice call, send messages, that kind of stuff. Speaking of the online, I think the online is going to get an absolute overhaul for the Nintendo Switch 2. Firstly, I think they're going to do away with the mobile phone app. No one really used the app, no one really cared about using the app, and I think it's smart if Nintendo just stitched it all together, and that they include native voice chat, native messaging, and all that stuff included on the system. No phone required. Additionally, we all know that Nintendo typically uses peer-to-peer connections in terms of their online play. Now, I am not an expert on how online gaming is done, but I do know that peer-to-peer is an inferior way of doing online gameplay, and that each game should have their dedicated servers. That's why consoles like Xbox and PlayStation have had paid online for the longest time, because their games have dedicated servers, and it requires money to keep those servers going. So that's why you gotta pay an online subscription. And given that Nintendo is now charging for an online service, but not giving dedicated service to their games, I think that is a big mistake, and I do feel like that is something that Nintendo will want to rectify if they want to move their platform, into the 21st century, let's be real. That being said, I feel like they're going to do that. They're going to offer, game servers. I think they're going to expand their retro catalog with GameCube games. but I do feel like they are also going to increase the price. I feel like they're going to increase the price of their base subscription from $20 a year to $30 a year. You know, still not as high as the competition, but still, you know, 50% higher than what it originally was. Of course, I'm talking about the base level pack, the regular Nintendo Switch Online. This is not counting the expansion pack. I feel like people are going to groan at this, but I feel like if Nintendo really do improve their online infrastructure, at the end of the day, the complaints will be just like sprays of water into a puddle. It won't really matter that much because at the end of the day, yes, we'll be paying more, but hopefully we'll be getting an actual optimal online experience. Plus, if they announce GameCube games supplemental to it, and, you know, including games like, let's say, Luigi's Mansion, Mario Kart, Smash Bros. Melee, all of that stuff from the get-go, I feel like people will not mind as much as long as they show all of that stuff with the online price increase. But knowing Nintendo, they could just be like, oh, the price of NSO is going to go up, but we'll explain more about the service at a later date. I could so see Nintendo doing that. I also think we're going to get a good look at the UI, because the UI, you know, the user interface, is one of the things about the Nintendo Switch that people have complained about the most. People have complained about the eShop sucking. People have complained about the main home screen lacking, and any sort of themes and folders didn't come until recently. So I feel like this is going to be an area that Nintendo wants to focus on, showing how cool and fresh the UI of their new system is, how customizable it is, how you can make it, you know, look like anything. You can have a Mario background, you can have a Legend of Zelda background, you can have a Pokemon background, all these different backgrounds and themes. I feel like that's going to be a big focus for Nintendo this time around. And I do feel like, given the fact that I think they're going to bring, you know, online functionality like voice chat and messaging back onto the Nintendo Switch on the console, I feel like we could also see some sort of social media-like app, somewhat like Miiverse, being put on the Nintendo Switch 2. Being able to post online, post your screenshots, interact with other gamers, I feel like that's something that Nintendo really had locked down with the Wii U. Say what you want about the Wii U, but the Miiverse was one of the best features of the Wii U in my personal opinion. So bringing an equivalent to that to the Nintendo Switch 2, I feel like would be a very smart move. And because of the fact that the Nintendo Switch 2 is a handheld hybrid, I feel like another smart decision would be to bring some sort of Street Pass alternative back. I'm not the biggest Street Pass person, it wasn't something that really I cared about much at all, but I do know that there is a big community of people who absolutely support, cherish, and love Street Pass, and you know, I feel like, you know, not having that there for, you know, a majority of Nintendo fans who go to conventions, who go to Nintendo events, who do lots of different stuff within the community, I feel like it'd be a really missed opportunity for Nintendo not to do something like that. Alright, so that's it with the console. You know, that's enough talking about the console, what it can do, because I feel like I've covered most of the main bases, except for, obviously, the price and the release date. Now, I personally think the release date is going to be sometime in May. Now, if you guys watched my Nintendo 2025 predictions video all the way back from January, May is the month that I actually originally predicted the Nintendo Switch 2 to release. And I am standing by that. Yes, there are some showings of the Nintendo Switch 2 that aren't going to be happening until the end of May, and I even think into June in some countries, but I still do think that Nintendo could still release it at the very end of May, just to kind of get ahead of, like, you know, the big summer blowout. I feel like, you know, as kids are getting ready to leave school, the Nintendo Switch would be a perfect gift for, like, graduations and for finishing up school, good report cards and all that stuff. And then for us adults, obviously, we just got the Nintendo Switch 2 because we want to. The price is a really interesting point because there are arguments for any price, really, you know, based on what the system could potentially do. I personally don't see Nintendo going over the $450 price limit, because I don't see them doing a $500 system. I could see them doing anywhere between a $400 to a $450 console. $350 maybe, but that's really stretching it because you can get a Switch OLED for that price, so unless they're going to drop the price, I don't feel like it'd be a smart move to put your new console at the same price as your old console. You know, I feel like Nintendo just has to, you know, charge a little bit more for it. So we'll have to wait and see, but I'm thinking somewhere in the $400 to $450 range. Alright, let's talk games. I feel like Nintendo are going to have quite a few games to show off here, but I do think they're not going to show as many games as most people think they're going to. I think they're going to try and just show off what they have coming within the first year of the console. Because I feel like one of the biggest missteps with the Nintendo Switch was Metroid Prime 4, a game that they announced way too early, and I feel like, you know, given all the, you know, the anticipation surrounding that title, I feel like Nintendo really don't want to do that again. So I feel like they're going to kind of focus on the titles that are coming out within the year. So what this includes is obviously Mario Kart. Mario Kart, I feel like, is just kind of the obvious one. We already saw a little bit of it. We'll be seeing more, yada yada. I do feel like another one that we could potentially be seeing is Metroid Prime 4. Now, I know Joey from Ferris Wheel Pro would heavily disagree with me here, but I feel like having Metroid Prime 4 be a launch title would actually be a really solid move. Mostly because of the fact that many people will be picking it up because there's not much else to play for the Nintendo Switch 2. And, you know, yes, this is, I guess, a low-key bash on Metroid Prime. But, like, it's not the highest-selling franchise in the world, so giving it that spotlight of being one of the first titles. I mean, Mario Kart, people are going to buy a Switch 2 for Mario Kart anyways. So giving them a good single-player title alongside it, I feel like would be a really strong launch for Nintendo. So I am personally one of those people that do think that Metroid Prime 4 will be some sort of dual launch. And as for other games, it's complete speculation territory, but I do think we are going to be seeing a new 3D Mario game at this point. I mean, it's Mario's 40th anniversary. We haven't had a new 3D Mario since Odyssey, or Bowser's Fury if you want to count that one, and I feel like it's about time. It's about freaking time. It's been 8 years nearly since Odyssey, and it would be a shame if we went a full year of the Nintendo Switch 2 with no 3D Mario. I do feel like one notable absence people will probably notice is I don't think we're going to see anything Zelda related. If anything, maybe a port or a remake, but I don't think we're going to see a full, you know, new Zelda game just yet on the Nintendo Switch 2. I feel like that's something that's going to show up later on. And as much as I hate to say it, I don't think we're going to see Luigi's Mansion 4. Listen, I know I predicted Luigi's Mansion 4 this year, but the way the year's stacking out, I'm really starting to bet against Luigi's Mansion 4 coming out this year, which I'm fine with if it gives Next Level Games some more extra time to work on it. But, you know, not having Luigi's Mansion 4 this year will suck for me because I love Luigi's Mansion, but, you know, it is what it is. We'll have lots of other great games to play this year. I think we're going to see some other titles as well. Obviously, I think Nintendo is going to try and take a shot at a new IP. I don't know what. Obviously, if it's a new IP, it's kind of hard to predict what it is. But I do feel like it is likely that we're going to see something completely new. And that will be very, very exciting. I'm really interested to see what Nintendo will end up doing. And I feel like we're going to see a lot of smaller titles as well. I have a feeling that Kirby is going to show up in some way. They're going to show off some new Kirby game. You know, maybe some new cool mechanic. You know, Kirby, they kind of always try some new stuff with. And I feel like with the games, they're going to show a lot of variety. But one thing is, I don't know how much they're going to show of each game. I feel like they're going to kind of give us a broad stroke of all of these games and give us more information about each one at a later date. Because at the end of the day, the presentation is about the console. And, you know, unlike the original Nintendo Switch presentation that was in front of a live audience, that was, you know, like done on stage, this is a digital presentation, so we can expect it to be quite a bit shorter than the actual presentation. I don't think it's going to be longer than an hour. I do expect it to be on the longer end of Nintendo Directs because of the fact that it's not just showing games, it's showing hardware, and it's more in-depth than a typical Nintendo Direct. But I don't see it going longer than an hour because I feel like Nintendo doesn't want to drag this thing out. As cool as it would be to have a really long presentation going in-depth on every possible little thing, I don't think Nintendo are going to do that. I think they're going to spend a lot of time talking about the console. You know, maybe spending 20 to 30 minutes just talking about the actual console itself, and then maybe the second half talking about the games that were released. But we could also see third-party stuff as well. Some other third parties could show up. We could be hearing about what Xbox is doing with Nintendo. If we're going to get some more Rareware titles, like maybe the Rare Replay Collection or something like that, or Sea of Thieves. Or maybe we're going to get something from Activision Blizzard. Call of Duty, is reportedly coming to the Nintendo Switch. Like, there's so many things that we could potentially be seeing. I feel like this is going to be an absolutely huge presentation. I just feel like it would be smart for Nintendo to not really dwell too much or spend too much time on individual titles as to not take away from other things from the show, because I'm sure they're going to be showing a lot. Now, I'm not saying they should just glaze over each game and barely talk about them, but I'm saying they shouldn't drag too much. Don't pull an E3 2018 where your whole show is about Smash, or a great majority of it. You should have well-balanced, well-timed things for each game, showing off just enough to give us a taste of what the Switch 2 is like, so that maybe at a later date you could show off things more in depth. Because at the end of the day, I think this is a great place to show off the system, and I feel like that's where the focus should be, the system. Because you don't want a Wii U situation. You want people to be able to look at this system and know this ain't a Switch 1. This is a new system. It's a Switch 2, and what it can do differently. So, that's really all I got to say. I know I kind of blabbered on a lot. I'll be honest, I'm really tired. This is a late night recording for me. But I'm really excited to see what the Switch 2 has to offer. We got 1 week left to go. I'm really excited. I know you guys are really excited. I'm going to try and react to the stream live on my channel. Depends on if I can get off work. And I'm also going to be doing a Chatterday this weekend talking all about the Switch 2 before its presentation. I'm going to try and acquire some special guests for the stream to make it more of like a discussion type stream with other people. But you'll just have to wait and see on that. So, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I really hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff down below. Hit that notification bell so you can be notified of when I upload videos. And of course, consider becoming a ZakPak member. It would mean a lot to me. And until next time, you guys, I will see you all in the next video.